This story took place during my visit to Seoul, South Korea. It was my first time ever being in Korea. It was the end of June and I was there with my brother who had been there back in February. We only had a week and a half there, so I really wanted to use my time wisely and see as much as I could in that short amount of time. This took place on maybe our 4th or 5th day there. Up to this point, Chris and I had been traveling together a lot, but on this day, Chris actually wanted to do some things I didn't really care to do, and I had a few little day trips I wanted to try as well, so we split up for the day. My goal was to get from downtown Seoul to Nami Island, Petite France, and the Garden of Morning Calm. All three of these locations are really close together and most people would do all of them in one day. This was also a big deal for me as this was my first ever trip I would be taking alone. Up to this point, I'd had someone else with me whenever I was traveling in a foreign country. This was about 2.5 hours away and my Korean was so basic, I knew it really wouldn't help me much. Before leaving, I used a combination of Google Maps, Kakao Maps, and Kakao Metro to plan out the path. I'd been using the subway every day since I arrived and was pretty confident I knew the exact trains to take to get to where I needed to be. My first stop was Nami Island, as it was the biggest of the 3 stops and where I would want to spend the most time. I don't remember exactly what time I made it to the train, but it was no later than 9 a.m. I took the trains all the way to Gapyeong Station. At this point, I'm literally a 5-minute bus ride away from the wharf where I can then take a quick ferry trip onto Nami Island. Everything was going perfectly and I was making great time. All I had to do was get on the right bus. I didn't know which bus I needed, however. Not really sure how I missed this in my planning, but it was okay because there were signs everywhere and I found an information building. I went in and told them I was trying to get to Nami Island. The lady in there told me the bus number I needed and said to run because it was pulling up right now. I looked out and saw the bus number she had said pulling up. I thanked her and ran to the bus. Once we took off, I did what I always do on buses. I pulled out my phone and checked my offline maps to make sure we were going the right direction. At first, it was hard to tell, but I noticed we kept missing turns that would take us to Nami Island. But I didn't say anything because I trusted the lady at the information building knew what she was talking about. After about 15 minutes, I knew there was absolutely no way I was on the right bus. I really didn't know what to do. If this happened today, I would know to just tell them I needed off the bus as soon as possible, but this was my first ever solo trip, and I'm generally more introverted. I also wasn't sure how much English the bus driver knew, and my Korean was not gonna get me far at all, but I couldn't just sit there. Finally, after honestly waiting longer than I should, I got up and asked the bus driver if this bus was going to Nami Island. He told me no, that I had the right bus number, but of course, going the wrong way. He let me off and told me to run across the street and take the bus that was pulling up. I thanked him, ran across, and jumped on the other bus. I told him I was going to Nami Island. He took me to a pretty large bus station and told me to go tell the people at the ticket booth that I was going to Nami Island, and they would tell me which bus I then needed to take. At this point, I was about an hour behind schedule. I wasn't very happy about it, but I was doing what I could to make it to my destination. The people in the information booth spoke absolutely no English. They did understand Nami Island though, and wrote on a piece of paper that I needed bus number 335. I'll never forget that bus number. I found signs that said 335 wouldn't arrive for like 40 minutes, so I just waited it out. I noticed that this area was totally different than anything I had seen in Korea up to this point. In Seoul, I could always get by with English, and there were so many foreigners that I never really felt out of place. This was totally different. It felt like no one spoke English at all, and I really felt alone and totally out of place. To be fair, this would have been really cool and exciting to me normally, but I was stressing out a bit because I'd wasted so much time and I already had a packed schedule for the day. I waited until the sign said the bus was arriving. I had never left the spot where the buses pull up, but I never saw this bus. I looked at the numbers of every single bus that pulled up and 335 was not one of them. I looked at the signs and they said it was departing, but none of the buses said 335. I had no idea what happened or how on earth I could have missed this bus. I went back up to the ticket area and tried to ask them about it, but they had absolutely no idea what I was trying to say to them. I was writing my brother at this point and he was online trying to figure out what I needed to do. He said it looked like I was in the right spot and I just needed bus 335, the exact same thing the ticket booth told me. All I could do was wait for the next bus, which wasn't for another hour. I was extremely frustrated at myself for wasting so much time, but all I could do was just wait it out. I was also so hungry by this point. It was long past lunchtime and Korean summers are very hot. I just sat and waited for another bus. There wasn't really much else I could do. Once it was time for the bus to arrive, I went out and started checking every bus again. I even went up to a few of them that said like 334 or 335-5 and asked them if they went to Nami Island. They all said no. Finally, after hours of waiting at this station, 335 pulled up and the driver said he was going to Nami Island. I swear I had never been happier to get on a bus. In about 10 minutes, I was dropped off at the wharf, got my ticket, and made my way to Nami Island. Once on the island, everything went fantastic and I had a really great day. Though by the time it was done and I was leaving, it was getting pretty late and there was no way I was gonna have time to make it to Petite France and Garden of Morning Calm, which really sucked because I was really looking forward to Garden of Morning Calm. I took the bus back to the train station and made it back to Seoul with no trouble. I'm not totally sure what happened to cause me to get so lost trying to get to Nami Island. I'm not sure if the lady from information accidentally told me the wrong bus, or if I jumped on the wrong one because I was trying to hurry. Either way, it doesn't really matter now. This was such a stressful day, but I look back fondly on it. I feel like I remember this day more so because it really didn't go how I expected. Nami Island was beautiful, but this day was huge in my growth as a person. I got lost in a country where I didn't speak the language on my first day ever doing a solo trip, and I figured it out and had an awesome day alone. This was the day that helped me grow to realize I can solo travel, and I'm capable of figuring these things out on my own. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had any experiences similar to this, being lost in a foreign country, even if you weren't alone. On the screen, you can click on either my Korean vlog playlist or to my Nami Island video if you want to see it all play out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over on one of those.